Good morning. I wanted to take a few minutes today to, provide you a quick review of rental properties versus treasuries so that you understand how money is made in rentals, what the risks are, and what they look like from I bought it cash to I bought it all alone to maybe a portfolio of properties from a profit and a risk standpoint. And this will really help you understand directly what makes you wealthy from owning real estate, be different from what you think does, because it's not the same. And so I'm going to share a whole screen of information. Don't be scared by the amount of numbers, because they're pretty simple, and we'll go through it real quick. So here's my screen. On one side I have real estate, and this is real estate. I know I cut it off a little bit, but this is real estate analysis that you bought with cash is across here. So cash analysis, I had $250,000 in cash. I bought a property. What's that look like? I had no cash. I bought a property. What's that look like? And how does it look like if you build a portfolio of properties versus an individual as all cash or all loan? And the reason I did an analysis based on all cash or all loan is just to amplify the differences between the two. You could do it 75% or 50-50, and it changes your risk structure, but it helps you understand, where's your wealth coming from when you buy loans, and how does that affect us? And this is comparing to treasuries. Now, treasuries are paying, let's say, 2% right now. And so this is what your return looks like. Over here, income $5,000 in treasuries, because you're putting that much money in at 2%. And it's safe, right? We all know that. It's safe. Well, let's see what's actually happening in this situation and why people don't say, hey, buy treasuries to be wealthy. So first, I'm gonna show you how these are the same in some ways. Taxes are the same. Property taxes, the same, but 10x for 10 houses. Insurance. There's no real advantage to have lots of houses. Insurance is actually not cheaper for the second house than it is the first house. You might get better at going out and getting analysis of it, but maybe different companies, whatever, but it's really not cheaper in itself. Management fees, pretty much charged based on rent collected, and so those are the same. And so repairs do change as you come to 10, because over here on one house you have this possible spike in repairs where you get an air conditioner out and you're in 1 year and you're not expecting that, and now boom, you're hit on your cash flow more than what you expected, and so maybe you quote lost money when you thought you were going to make some, right? But when you get to 10 houses, usually all that stuff kind of evens out year to year. You have one house 1 year, one house another year, and over time basically it's not a big difference. And so I don't have that down on the risk. So on the risk section, and then lastly, treasuries, you're making $5,000 a year from a 2% Fed rate, and we'll cover inflation in just a second and show you how that's calculated. First, at the top, I have a rent of $1,400 a month. Fed rate is 2%. Current commercial lending rate is 5.5%. Okay, maybe you can get down to 5, but we'll just go with 5.5. Inflation rate was like 8.51, just over 9 before that. So we're just going to go with the 8.5 inflation rate. Inflation is real, and inflation changes your situation. So let's look at it that way. You have no inflation here on a cash property. Inflation is not helping you on a cash property. Okay, it's all your money in the property, and so you now don't have your money, you now have the property. Okay, very key to understand that. Now, if you borrow all the money on the property and you have an 8.5% inflation, you do now pay interest on that money at the 5.5%, but you also have this inflation, which was $21,250. And you'll never see that. You don't see inflation, but it is still real. You're still going to be borrowing money and paying it back with money that is cheaper. And so understanding that is key, because it changes a lot of the situation. Inflation down here is costing you $21,250 because it is your money that is being inflated away. Okay? So let's look at the net. Net cash property, $11,520. Property on a loan, $19,020. This is not cash flow. This is not money that you can go spend, but it is still real. If we make decisions on the money in our pocket, we will be poor. If we make decisions based on the wisdom of the situation, then that will occur and we will gain wealth. Okay? So net effect, $19,020 on the property you bought with a loan. And let's say you buy you 60% loan, 20% what you put in, you're at $160,000 on 10 houses. Of this $160,000, there might be zero in your pocket. It doesn't make it not real. It's still real. It's still $160,000. If you have this much debt and you have inflation we had, you're getting $127,500 a year from inflation. Now, how would you see the inflation effect? Well, you would see it generally because you would see the house price go up. That's what you would see. You're not going to see the loan go down in value from inflation, just what you pay off, but the house value going up. So let's compare kind of what risk we're assuming for these situations. And I'm going to delete some of the risks if they're different. Because obviously this costs you $16,250 a year from your net worth. Every year you have $250,000 in treasury. It is a bad wealth decision. Okay? So we compare these to this decision because this is what we're going to consider our no risk decision. You know all the variables, what's going to happen. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at this price appreciation, all right? And we're going to say, or price deduction. So a real price increase on a house is from an increase in demand or an increase in real wages in that area. Meaning, if inflation is 5 and your wages in an area go up by 10, the house values can now go up. If your inflation is 5 and your wages go up by 5, then you really don't have any additional money to increase the value of the property. It might look like it increases, but really you're not getting anything. You're just getting it keep up with inflation, because inflation, if you're looking at a cash property, is not in this situation. Okay, this is merely keeping up with inflation. This is losing with inflation. This is keeping up. So we're going to go through and look at these three and see what the difference is. So one difference you're going to see is with an individual property, you have this repairs risk, which can be a lot. Even if you have a house for 5 years, you end up putting a new roof on the house. Nobody's going to buy the house for a lot more if you have a new roof on it, because that's a real thing on the risk. Now, price reduction, the price could go down or go up. Usually it holds a value, but this will be based on the increase in people's wages in the area, which comes from jobs and things like that, or an area where demand is increasing in. Okay, so, but that's no different for any situation. So we're going to take that out of here. We're just going to take the price reduction. And we're going to take the depreciation out of here because the depreciation is not different between them. Now, one real thing to understand is if you are going to do this, I would not do it because of inflation, other than, covering that inflation risk somehow. And I would not do it for interest rates or anything like that. I would mostly do it if there was a moat. Now, you can get the same moat here as you can here as you came here. In fact, this is easier to get a moat on when you have a cash property. But I wouldn't buy a property unless there was a moat. Unless there was a difference between the value of the property on the open market and the value I can buy it for, I would never buy it. So if a house is selling for $250 and it's worth $250, they'd say, "Is that a good investment?" I'd say it's a great investment at $225. At $250, it's not really an investment; it's just a break even. I'm just shifting my money, and so very few reasons I would just shift my money into a property. Now, right now, if I didn't have inflation risk coverage, I might borrow money to cover inflation risk on my other assets, right? So plan for that risk versus the interest rate risk. But really no difference in repairs on these two. This one is a better situation because you don't have the repairs risk, but we're going to take this out for now because that's kind of a timing issue. And then inflation is a risk here, and interest rate risks are also risks here. So the one thing to understand is if you can buy with a moat, otherwise don't buy, then you're weighing inflation risks versus interest risks on these two. And this does not have those two. Okay? So this does not help you overall versus inflation. It is not a hedge on inflation. It does help protect your money that you put into it, but it doesn't protect anything outside of that. So I wanted to take a few minutes and share that with you today so you kind of understood, decision points on buying properties or not buying properties versus the treasury that you could buy. And one of the things I would encourage you to do is to look at situations and not say, what does this feel like, but say, what in wisdom is really happening here, and kind of put it on a spreadsheet and study it a little bit, because it's not obvious that this inflation has this kind of effect, that one rental property at 100% loan makes you $20,000 a year because of the current inflation risk. That's not obvious. It doesn't go in your pocket. It doesn't feel like that. And so, people don't make those decisions because they don't really understand what's going on. They just don't spend the time. They're not interested in it. And so, hopefully I can give you the information. Just, throw it out there so you understand. Here's what's happening. This money doesn't go in your pocket. This money goes in your net worth. This money makes you wealthy, right? It goes directly into your net worth. And that's the type of investment you're looking for. You're looking for investments that may not put anything in your pocket, but, may add to your net worth every single day, every single month, for the next 5 or 10 years. And then, if it does that, then you're really looking at a situation that you can end up with a significant net worth and not doing a lot of work to try to save it. Hope this is valuable to you. Like and subscribe. At least click a like on the video if you want me to make another one. And I'll talk to you all later.